What up, you guys? We are here for our weekly energy oracle forecast where we take a look at the week ahead and see what the energy has on offer. So in my personal reading, it felt like it was going to be a pretty kind of reflective week, and last week's readings really kind of had that theme as well. So I feel like this week it's kind of starting to shape up in a way, going deeper and like getting more clarity on our reflection, like what we're really taking away from it and finding the clarity in what we've been thinking about. We've got the eternity card here. And so there's so many images that come to mind when I look at this card. I think of transformation. I think of the term eternal itself as something that is unfluctuating, unchanging, unwavering, right? It's consistent. It flows in continuity. Eternal. What is eternal? Eternal is that which remains when all that fades is gone, right? You know, when we share a moment with someone of true, authentic love, right? Or when we, do something for someone that forever changes their life or the way that they see life, the healing that we have, that we can attain and maybe even help others find that healing too. It's those things, those moments in life that last beyond what's physical, what fades, the highs and lows of novelty. It's that which remains and lasts, that of true value. I also see in this card, we've got the central figure here looking straight ahead. We've got one figure looking to the future and one figure looking back at the past. And so here we are at our present juncture where we have to stay present in the moment and find our power within the present moment by being proactive in the now and not getting lost in the past and not getting lost in the future, right? But taking action in the now. Now, there's also this aspect of us that is, reflecting upon hindsight. Okay, what have I learned? How have I grown? What have I taken away from this past season of my life? And there's another aspect of us that is taking that wisdom and discernment and then projecting into the future. Okay, where am I going now? What lies ahead? How am I going to show up for myself to aim towards the direction of value rather than short-term gratification. We've got the poppies here. They are representative of death and remembrance and even, resurrection and renewal in a way. I think that anytime there is death, it's like an end that leads to a beginning, and it is a transformation that ends up taking away layers of physicality, of materiality, and reveals more of that which is eternal and that light from our soul, right? And then we have this moth that is also representative of death, rebirth, resurrection, renewal, transformation, in a time that is protected during that transformation. So finding, I think, power in the now, in the present moment, and like taking the lessons that we've learned and all the growth and reflection, and then applying them to the next chapter and this next timeline that we are beginning. I think it's going to lead us in a positive direction. We have victory here, which again, we have this repetition of form and imagery of this skull looking back and looking forward and standing firm in the central column, in that central pillar. When we study the glyph of the tree of life, there's the right-hand column of mercy, the left-hand column of judgment, and the central column of neutrality, of consciousness, of awakening consciousness, and finding balance between those two, finding virtue within imbalance that would be vice, right? So the column of mercy and sharing, needs to be balanced out with the column of restriction and discipline and judgment, right? And we've got the cosmic scales weighing our, our actions and our energy at any given time in life. And then it's on an individual level and a larger scale, right? So it's like, how much of ourselves are we able to transmute and reveal more light while changing that darkness and creating more light to weigh the scales of good over the scales of the negative? And what are we doing that's either contributing to more negativity or complacency, right? And so in order to reveal more light in our soul and continue on in that soul correction to reveal more of the mercy, sometimes judgment is required, and discipline and structure and severity and restriction, right? So sometimes we have to delay instant gratification for the sake of long-term fulfillment. Sometimes life takes us through difficulties and challenges, and we might feel like we've faced many losses and many disappointments, but it's actually in the end to create us and shape us into a champion, right? A champion of life who can continue on. And the winning and the success is not about the specific result, but it's about the ability to keep moving forward and to maintain that solid footing in that central column, where you can have a balance of, being able to feel your feelings without being reactive and impulsive and making decisions based on those feelings without consulting your intellect. But also, it's not fully based on intellect either, right? Because that'll leave us empty-handed, because God works in mysterious ways, and the universe works in ways that we don't always understand, that requires faith, and it requires that we step out on a limb sometimes and take a chance. And so with that, we don't have guaranteed answers, but what we can choose is certainty in the Creator, that you will ultimately connect with what is meant for you truly, and what is yours will not pass you by. And whatever is happening in your life can be used to reveal more light in you and make you into a stronger, wiser person in the end, and eventually, hopefully, more successful and blessed. So I feel like take heart, take comfort that something is happening, that your realizations are leading you in a positive, victorious direction. All right. What else do we need to know for the week ahead? Okay, passion. Things are going to, it's like if you've been feeling a little bit depleted or feeling like a malaise, feeling overwhelmed or burnout, this week could help you connect deeper to your passion again, and it could awaken that passion in you again once more. In my Kabbalah class that I was watching the other night, the main takeaway, the main question was asking us, where in your life are you not desperate enough for change, right? Where do you need to be more spiritually hungry? Where have you become complacent? Right? Are you kind of satisfied with the status quo and you're not pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, right? Where are you desperate to defeat your ego and awaken that passion and that desire to expand, right? And to reach for your potential? Because it's so easy to stay in that ego state that keeps us trapped from going to our next level, right? And we get complacent and we're not hungry enough, or we're not desperate enough. We get used to the discomfort or the devil that we know, instead of putting ourselves out there in a season of darkness and uncertainty, but that could possibly bring more of what we're looking for and awaken more passion and more determination and more drive. All right, so passion and depth and awareness and conscious intention. We've got knowledge here. So it's not a matter of not knowing what enough, right? It's like we have this knowledge, we have something that is of substantial value, right? And we're not without resource if we have knowledge. And then it's like, this knowledge, though, is almost it's like the person is holding the world in their hand, and they have the world in their palm. The iris is connected to the angel of creative wisdom, I think, and Coventina, and the angel Iris has to do with I want to say creative renewal. Oh, there's this great book that I have, Angels Within Us. And hold on, let me just grab it really fast. I'll be right back. Okay, so I found Iris, the angel of patience and acceptance. So this angel is feminine in nature. In Greek mythology, she was known as Iris, the golden winged goddess of the rainbow, and the messenger of gods. She carried the commands of gods to men, traveling the path of the rainbow. She was also known as the Queen of Heaven, and it was said that she was a regular courier for the Queen of the Gods, the keeper of the mysteries, the archetype that we have already identified as Isis, the angel of creative wisdom. So she was the messenger of the angel of creative wisdom. And so it says that she brought the commands of the gods to the humans. So this week, you might, in your reflection, have divine guidance that comes to you. Let's read on. So, and remember that this is the angel of patience and acceptance, right? And we were just talking about being able to hold your peace even in the face of uncertainty and choose the energy of certainty in the Creator. Rainbow represents the channel or passage between the realm of the spiritual triad or divine consciousness and the personality. So it represents the passage between the realm and spiritual triad or divine consciousness and the personality. So it's like the bridge between our personality and our divine consciousness, the higher self versus the lower self. And this is the path that Iris follows in delivering the communications from on high. The rainbow also symbolizes the sign of the covenant as given in Genesis 9:13 through 15. Therefore, the angel of patience and acceptance is also the angel of the covenant, meaning that an individual's world will not be inundated by the deluge of negativity if the qualities of this causal power are embodied. And what are those qualities? It is having a sense of proportion in life with the ability to remain steady on the spiritual path as life swings back and forth between positive and negative poles. It is the quality of practicing moderation in all things and dispensing with fanaticism regardless of the passion or devotion felt toward a particular activity. It is the force that enables one to have a focused spiritual direction and to follow life's plan as it unfolds and reveals greater and grander goals to strive for. Could a flood of pessimism and worst possible scenarios engulf such a person? Not with this angel overshadowing them. So let's look at the quick guide to the chart. Angel of patience and acceptance, purpose, provides the energy that enables you to trust the divine process with total acceptance of come what may. Living day to day with calm equanimity. The negative traits from ego projection, difficulty in adjusting to a new situation and conditions. Also, a tendency toward wastefulness and extravagance. One who likes to argue. Energy blocked because of fear of the future. Unconsciously feeling that the will of God is not absolutely good. Lack of trust in the plan and purpose of spirit for individual beings. So this is the knowledge that we're talking about here. It's like the knowledge that God's plan is better than we know because we can't see the whole situation, right? And so we have to trust and accept that sometimes, life brings us ups and downs and we have to navigate those, and we have to learn to tune into our spiritual guidance because we can't trust our thoughts and feelings when we are faced with huge uncertainty, right? We could be led astray. And so we have to tune in to that inner guidance and that inner wisdom. Also accepting, the situation at hand and navigating through the reality of it rather than what you hope it would be or what you'd rather it be or what you want it to be. We need to hear the call and be able to answer it, right? And so this is accepting the truth of what is and not fighting it and resisting it, but then having the faith and the trust to navigate things that change and things that are unexpected, right? Or being able to compromise a little bit here and there, where it doesn't make those deep differences, right? Sometimes we can get so set on something that we can't have any give and we're not flexible. So sometimes we have to be a little bit flexible, but in the end, it works out for us. So having that knowledge and that wisdom and having the world at our fingertips when we can approach life with that kind of trust, right? With that kind of ability to just make change when we need to, right? Have you ever known that person who just it seems like they're not attached to anything? So like they can just like up and move and it's like no big deal. They're like, oh, I'm sick of my place. I don't like something that's happening in my house. So I'm just going to move to a new one. Or like, oh, I'm bored with the city. I want to go to a new one. Or, it's like they just can make so many changes, right? And with such ease. Sometimes that's bad. Sometimes that's negative. But when it comes to like feeling like you are resisting change and it's starting to make things worse, it's like you need a little bit of this, feeling like you can make a change and trust the situation if that's the direction you're being led to go. But also, it's also having the acceptance and patience to be able to practice restriction and not take impulsive action unless you are guided to take that. Because sometimes life is taking us through a moment of discomfort and uncertainty, but we need to just stay where we're at and go through that discomfort and not try to avoid it, right? So we need to learn how to have the discernment of which thing is happening. All right, let us get one more card to finish the week. But I think that's some really good advice and guidance. I think that's very comforting. And joy is at the center of this. So, we may have uncertainty and change might be in the making and things might be changing, but it's going to be more joyous in the end. It's going to, maybe take some looking at our situation realistically and honoring where we've been and how far we've come and where we're growing towards, right? So many times in our life, we've grown out of a season and we're keeping ourselves there because it takes some pushing, right? Not everything is as simple as like graduating from school, right? School's great because there's like an end and then someone's like, all right, you can go now. And you're like, oh, is this it? And they're like, please vacate the premises. You're no longer paying us. So the transaction is over. So sometimes life is like that and we don't realize it's happened. We don't know that there's a clear ending or a chapters. It's not like clear chapters, right? Sometimes it's very pivotal when you have a bit. That's why like rituals and traditions are so great and so helpful, because without the graduation ceremony, you're just sort of put out into the world with no feeling that you had like a complete ending, right? You didn't get to tie things up nicely and you didn't get to celebrate the end and have a clear sense of rite of passage. And you need to grieve the old thing that's the old way of life and the old version of you that's passing behind. And this is true, even in great situations. I was just listening to the To Be Magnetic podcast for it was from last week, I think. But they made such a good point that we grieve positive changes in our life as well. And we don't even realize it. We're not giving ourselves time to grieve. And so even when, like, say you have been single for a long time and then you get in a relationship, you have to grieve the old you that had complete freedom and complete autonomy over your schedule, right? When you start to get into a relationship that the other person requires your time and your investment and your attention, and you have to kind of share your agendas and goals, right? Because, you're coming together depending on how serious it is. But like as you get more serious, you lose that individuality because you become one with another, right? And you lose the old identity because you're becoming more of who you used to be and more than you used to be, right? That your life is expanding in a way that doesn't leave room for your complete and utter independence and self-centered life anymore because there's another person in the picture. So sometimes that takes a grieving process. I know, I don't know from personal experience, I don't have kids, but when people become mothers, they often have like a period of, fear and depression and so many emotions that have to do with losing that freedom that they once knew. I know the dread of thinking about losing that freedom, because that's one thing that's never given me a lot of motivation to have kids in the first place. So I can understand the feeling of having that loss. I went to my sister's crawfish boil recently, and I'm not even like, I mean, I would love to be in a relationship and settle down and, not be so free to be, whatever, do whatever I want all the time. But it was clear that there were people at the party that like completely resented me, and they snapped at me because I didn't like put the lid back on something like absolutely locked down and tight. And they kept doing it after me. And I'm like, what is the point? Like the flies aren't getting in. Like the baked goods aren't going to go stale in the 2 hours that we're sitting here. Like, and every time you come over, it's like, you've got to like disassemble this whole thing. So I just was like consciously just leaving it easy to get into. And they were like, oh, it must be so nice to just think about yourself all the time. And I was just like, oh, like tell me how you really feel. It's like, wow, I didn't realize that people resented you so much for something that you can't even have control over, right? But obviously they missed that season of their life so much that they would like bite somebody's head off at a party because it's boiling under the surface. I mean, you hear this all the time. So we grieve seasons that come and go, and we introduce more space for more joy to come in different ways, right? I'm sure that they have a lot deeper fulfillment at the end of the evening when they're sitting down to dinner as a family than I do when I'm falling asleep right after I eat, to the chosen. So everything's a trade-off, right? And you value different things at different times, right? And if I were too like forlorn about not having that experience, then that would make my present moment miserable too. But like, I'm content, I'm happy, right? And so I can be happier. We can all be happier, but like, again, sometimes you just have to be where you're at in the moment and make the most of that moment, because that season will pass too and new seasons will come, right? So we appreciate where we're at while we're there. That makes the most of life, right? It makes it more efficient. So like we're getting the picture here. We're like, okay, we see clearly, like, we're evaluating our situation. Things are becoming more clear of, what direction we might want to go in, or where we think will lead us to more everything that we're trying to create in our life, but that will ultimately bring us success and victory and bring us into like a next level in some way. Hopefully this thing will bring, it's not that the thing will bring more passion, but if we can cut away the things that are like the mindsets and the things that are keeping us stuck and oppressed, and we can awaken that passion within us again, right? That drive, that desire is what makes for change. Otherwise, if we don't have that passion and that desire to change, then we become complacent, right? It's like when we were talking about my Kabbalah class earlier, that was like, where in your life are you desperate for your ego to change? Where are you like, you cannot live with your ego this way anymore? You can't keep going through life like this without change. Where are you starving and hungry for change? Or where do you need to be more hungry for change? And where do you have complacency that's keeping you in the status quo? We don't worry that you're not qualified. Like, you have the knowledge of, what needs to be done, and you know how to do it, right? You have expertise, you're well equipped, you've got the world at your fingertips, but it's about accepting the reality of what is and having patience, and then taking that divine guidance from spirit, like the angel Iris, or the angel of patience and acceptance, and then taking action once you've been given that guidance, right? And tune into your spirit for the timing, because that can be at play as well. But ultimately, I think it will lead to more joy and fulfillment in the end, and try to maintain a sense of joy and play in the moment as you are approaching this leg of the journey. All right, y'all, good luck out there this week. It's anybody's game. Who knows what's going to happen? It's all up in the air, but I think good things. And I think it's going to depend on us taking the guidance and doing something with it. We can get these messages all day, but if we don't act on them and we're just like, yeah, well, we got the weather report, I just didn't do anything about it, you know, nothing will change. But it's what we do with these messages and how we use them to transform and transmute ourselves in our life that makes the difference in the end. All right, y'all, I will see you tomorrow for our weekly anchor message where we get our weekly spiritual assignments for the week. All right, until then, ciao. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video and you got something out of it, then please give it a like. Subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications to be notified of when I drop content. Like the videos, comment, share them. Anything that you do helps these messages get out to other people who need them. So you watching a video and taking an action on it actually makes a positive difference in someone else's life.